Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Dragon's Library. So, it's been a while, and I've already filled out this new form for a new book to add to the collection. So, let's get right into it. First up, our new title is a book called Bringer of Dust. It was written by J.M. Miro, a pseudonym for Stephen Price, and it is a sequel to 2022's Ordinary Monsters. Both Bringer of Dust and Ordinary Monsters are dark historical fantasy books set in a world where some people at least, are born as talents, individuals who have sort of X-Men-like abilities, but they're grouped into 5 groups and they all revolve around manipulating dead matter. So you got like bone manipulators, you got people who can kind of stitch together bodies, regenerators, and people who can manipulate strange black dust. In the previous book, Ordinary Monsters, we were introduced to 2 individuals as our kind of main characters. This was Marlowe, who was a mysterious 8-year-old who could glow blue and didn't really fit into any of the talent groups. Charlie Ovid, a 16-year-old talent from rural Mississippi who could heal himself from any injury, even being killed. And they were joined by Alice Quick, a private detective, Margaret, who was a widow and employee at the Cannondale Institute, who looked after all the talents, Henry Burcast, who was the head of the institute and kind of collected the children. But to keep things very short and to the point, Marlowe and Charlie managed to reach the institute. They had been hunted by a man named Jacob Marber and a creature known as the Drugger who had come from an other world, basically the underworld. Henry Burcast had wanted Marlowe for shady and weird reasons, and he also wanted to steal some talents. And a lot of shit went down, and before you know it, the house is on fire, a bunch of people are dead, Marlowe's trapped on the other side, Charlie's lost his talent, Henry Burcast is dead, Jacob Marber's dead, the Drugger seemed to have died, but was later revealed to kind of still be alive, and everyone's lives just got thrown into disarray. Marlowe tells Charlie to come back for him, Charlie promises to, and the book kinda ended. Bringer of Dust takes place in the immediate aftermath of this. Carindel is in ruins, Marlowe's vanished, and the only hope to restore him is a rumor of a second Orsine that exists still, that's long hidden, and may not even really be functional anymore because there are ways to seal them permanently. In addition, a mysterious dust that had infected Jacob Marber before from the Drugger is revealed to still exist, which means the Drugger's still alive because she's connected to it and will hunt them down, whoever has it. And of course, this means that there are also a bunch of other people hunting them, either for information on Marlowe or for the dust itself, including the Drugger, now back and stronger than ever, the Abbess, a mysterious, very vicious killer, and also some other mysterious force that is underlying this whole thing that the mysterious corrupted dust might be able to either revive or destroy. The story then takes us on sort of a spanning adventure, a lot like the first book, where we go all the way from the ruins of the Carindel Institute in London to Sicily and Paris and even the other world, as we see from Marlowe's perspective near the end. So now that we've filled out the synopsis section and kind of listed off some of the main characters, what do I actually think about this book? Well, first off, dark historical fantasy is kind of one of my jams, not gonna lie. Historical fantasy and urban fantasy in general, I like the mixing of magic and fantastical elements in sort of a modern or realistic world, so to speak. This often includes things like the Temeraire series, or even the Natural History of Dragons series I read a while back. Now, while this book is very well written, it does have a lot of the extreme detail and kind of realistic, grounded elements with the supernatural horrors I like in good, dark historical fantasy. There is an issue. And it's an issue I have with Ordinary Monsters, but at the time I had a lot more free time, and Ordinary Monsters was really easy to just sink my teeth into. Bringer of Dust, for whatever reason, took me a bit more time to get through. I found that I had difficulty getting through, I'd say, the first 5 hours of the book. And yeah, the first 5 hours is the beginning of the book. This bitch is long. The audiobook version is over 24 hours long. It is a long read, but it's not a pointless read. In a lot of ways, like Babel and Arcane History of Oxford, the book is very detailed and vivid, full of moments of very intense horror, body horror, twisting nightmares, otherworldly dreams, supernatural powers. The characters have fleshed out motivations. Even the villains are more than paper cutouts, although the Drugger is kind of like an evil demon almost. She is after Marlowe, her son. Spoiler alert, that was a reveal at the end of the first book, Ordinary Monsters. That's basically the only major spoiler I think I'm giving you aside from that summary earlier. But yeah, even the otherworldly monster has a sort of understandable motivation. She wants her son back. But at the same time, it takes like 5 hours for them to leave London and start on their journey. And that's a lot of time before the actual plot starts. You have to remember, they spend like weeks just kind of milling around the ruins of Carindale and describing how all the other orphans were sent out to all these other places, how the main group's going to do this, and how they're going to set up their journey. And while it is very good for building a believable, detailed world, it also makes the book really slow. And I personally had a hard time getting into this one, which is weird because Ordinary Monsters is the same length and it has some of the same issues. But for whatever reason, on a personal level, I was able to jump into that one a lot easier than I was with Bringer of Dust. So if long books that don't get to the point quickly are an issue for you, if you can't handle that, like if you can't handle waiting 5 hours as they slowly pick themselves back up from the events of the first book just to start this one, you might want to give this one a pass. Moving down to the last section of this new little form I have, do I recommend this book? And I'd say it's a maybe. It depends. Do you like really slow, drawn-out stories that detail the world very well, have a lot of world building and a lot of cool fantasy elements? Yeah, I think you'll like this. If you want shorter reads, or you just can't sit down for a 24-hour audiobook, or maybe you just don't have the energy to like remember details from that far back, because that's an issue. Even if you can sit down for like 30 minutes to an hour a day to listen to an audiobook over a month, that means that you're going to have details that from the beginning that were hours and hours ago. I actually had to reread this book because I listened to it in like 3 or 4 hour segments essentially over a few weeks. And I had trouble remembering stuff that happened in the beginning of the book and had to go reread it again before I made my review. It's one of the reasons this took so long. So I'm going to give this a solid maybe. It depends on whether or not you have time for a long book and you like these elements. Also, there is a content warning. This thing does have depictions of suicide, graphic murder, body horror. It's not a book for the light of heart, and they do go into a lot of detail in those things, which is nice. There are some very vivid scenes, particularly one with sort of one of the sympathetic minions to the Abbess, one of the villains, where she's a bone turner and kills this doctor, but she reflects on how she gave him a merciful death, and it was so unlike her earlier crude attempts that she's glad he died quickly. There are details like that. It's very good. If you like those things, you'll like this. So, yeah. Well, let's go ahead and file this away as a good maybe. I think this is a solid book, all things considered. It's a good recommendation. However, let's go into sort of an announcement, how the channel's doing. You might have noticed I didn't update for like almost 3 weeks. I'm very sorry about that. I had a friend over for a week, and then I was sick. I'm still not feeling great as I'm recording this, but I managed to get through without coughing, which is a plus sign. And a lot of stuff has just been happening. I've been really busy, and I also wanted to try this new format, so everything just kind of fell apart for a few weeks. It shouldn't happen again, and I'm gonna try and catch up. I know I keep saying that, but I'm actually already started working on an Umbrella Academy review. I have that basically written out, and I'm gonna go ahead and try and record that as I'm editing this to make sure that gets out quickly so I can start getting some reviews out, because I have a lot of things I want to review for the year ends. Finally, we have the out card. There's a subscriber, goes to my channel. Please go there and subscribe. It really does mean a lot and really does help the channel. Also, there's a video to recommend, so if you want to watch that, go ahead and click on it. And I guess I will see you guys next time. Bye!